Well, let's hear now from a British dancer called Rashmi Becker. Rashmi has an older brother who can't speak. He has severe autism. And when they were growing up, it could be difficult for the two of them to communicate. But Rashmi found a way which helped her brother and is now helping others with disabilities. She told me a bit about him.
He is non-verbal and he also has a visual impairment. He requires 24/7 support, so he is not able to support himself with things like getting dressed, eating. He has no road awareness, for example, so he wouldn't be able to cross the road on his own. Because of his history, he was born at a time when people didn't really know what autism was. In fact, the term refrigerator mother was used back then, which is where they blamed the mother for being detached as the cause for that autism.
But detached emotion?
Yes.
Oh.
So there was very little understanding of what autism was. And so the treatment back then was institutionalization.
How old was he when he went into care?
He was 13. It was very difficult back then without any specialist care. My mother looked to the local authority for support, and back then the answer was to put someone into care.
You said he was non-verbal. How would he communicate with you? How would he tell you what he wanted?
So he can vocalise, he understands everything, and he's very playful. And as kids, of course, play is the way you communicate. So we would communicate a lot through music, even from a very early age. If I had little machines that made musical notes, I'd put that on and he would start vocalizing. And when he would hear something on the radio, again, he would vocalize the melodies. And we would just mirror each other with movements. It would be jumping, it would be rocking backwards and forwards, and different types of movement, but he really was fixated with that interaction, and that could go on for hours if we let it.
Oh, really?
So my younger brother and I would sometimes take turns, and we'd say, we're too tired now, and he'd just keep wanting to go, so he was just so happy. I have a black and white, really old VHS cassette of him dancing with my brother, and it's just such a joyous thing to see because he really, really enjoyed that.
Was there a particular place where you would dance?
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
So the garden, the living room. When I became older and could drive, if he heard something on the radio, he would rock backwards and forwards and side to side, and I'd have to ask him to sort of slow down because it would shake the car. But he just loved movement and music, and as I say, that was just the way we interacted and connected with each other.
I can see your face is lit up talking about it. Would his face light up too?
Yes, definitely. Big smile, bright eyes. Yeah, and he's still the same with music.
Was it just you and your younger brother who would dance with him?
Yes.
Not your parents?
No. They tend to spectate rather than participate when it comes to dance, I think.
So when did you start getting serious about dance?
Well, I actually started training as an ice skater from a really early age. Almost before I could walk, I was on the ice. I started dancing to help with my ice skating. And so I just experimented with lots of different styles. So it's something that I've just been passionate about from a very, very young age.
And you got really into Latin ballroom dancing?
Yes. Yeah. It's something that I've always loved. And I think maybe again, because my brother was in institutions, they used to have a lot of social events where we would go and it would be things like tea dances.
So you would dance for him and for the other people in this
That's
care
right,
home?
Yes.
What kind of reaction did you get when you went there?
People absolutely loved it. And when I was coming in, especially with older people, their energy levels went up. Family members, so often at things like Christmas parties, family members would come up afterwards and just say, I didn't expect them to be able to get up and dance like that, or they were really surprised. And residents in care homes would say to me, I wish we could do this more, and can you come back? So I started looking into what was available, because a lot of them said, can we have someone come and do this regularly?
Specifically Latin and ballroom dancing?
That's right, yes.
And what happened when you started making inquiries then?
I really found it challenging in two ways. One, I just couldn't find anything around. But secondly, when I did try and engage dance schools, dance teachers about bringing people with disabilities, for example, to their studio, there was a lot of resistance. There was one tea dance where I approached them and asked if I could bring a group of people that use wheelchairs, who love dancing, and I was told that two things. One, that they were concerned about the wheels of the wheelchairs damaging their dance floor, and secondly, that the non-wheelchair users would complain that the wheelchairs would be getting in the way.
You ended up setting up your own dance studio, step change studio.
That's right.
To get people with disabilities into dance, for Latin and ballroom specifically. How much enthusiasm have you tapped into, would you say, with that?
It's been absolutely mind-blowing. So in the space of 1 year, we've supported almost 1,000 disabled people to dance with non-disabled people, a lot of them for the first time. We work with charities in the care sector. We work with special education needs schools, mainstream schools that have kids with disabilities. We work in the community.
How does it work then? If you've got somebody, say, in a wheelchair, dancing with somebody who's not in a wheelchair, maybe doing a ballroom dance or something, how does it all work?
You could have wheelchair users and they will be partnered with an able-bodied partner, and you learn the moves independently, individually, so you can see what that looks like and become familiar with basic movement. And then you pair together and learn about how your interactions will work. It's looking at the body that you have and creating something with that. And that's what we do with Latin and ballroom. So if you have limited lower body movement, you use your upper body to express yourself. If you're in a wheelchair, the wheelchair in a way becomes part of that movement and becomes your legs. And so where you might turn using your legs standing, you turn using your wheelchair. You can still have a hold with someone that's standing. It may be that you hold from one side. Everything is just about adapting. And we've had fantastic feedback from the able-bodied dancers who have found that it's improved their own skills and their own dancing ability because they've had to think differently about how they use their body and how they connect with someone that's different.
And you're putting on a show at Sadler's Wells.
That's right.
Probably the best known dance theatre
Yes.
in the UK. So what's going to happen on stage?
I'm so excited about this show. So this is Fusion and it's at Sadler's Wells tomorrow evening. We're almost sold out of tickets, and it's the very first time in the UK that there has been an inclusive Latin and ballroom showcase of dance.
And by inclusive you mean able-bodied and disabled dancers on stage together?
That's right, yes. So we have 20 artists, so 20 disabled and non-disabled dancers. We have wheelchair dancers, we have a deaf artist, and we're working with some fantastic choreographers from shows like Dancing with the Stars and Strictly.
Will your brother be in the audience?
He won't be, because I think it will be challenging for him to sit through an hour of that. But we're taping it, and I'm really keen for him to see it. And I have, continued to sort of dance with him, and I'd love to see what he thinks about it as well.
Rashmi Becker of Step Change Studios. We put a gorgeous gallery of photos on our Facebook page of Rashmi and some of her students. Rashmi's the one dancing in the yellow dress. And then there are pictures of her classes and some stunning shots of performances that they've put on. Just search for BBC Outlook.